Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you are looking at the raw code of a massive, incredibly complex software program.
Right, just a giant wall of text.
Exactly, a total wall of text. To most people, it just looks like a bunch of random symbols, brackets, and like letters cascading down a screen. It's pure gibberish.
Yeah, totally incomprehensible.
But to a master programmer, that wall of text isn't random at all. It is a highly structured, perfectly logical architecture. They can look at it and instantly say, oh, right there, that's the physics engine. And over there, that's the rendering protocol.
They see the matrix.
They really do. And language, specifically the English language, is exactly like that. I mean, we use it every single day. We swim in it, but we very rarely stop to look at the underlying code.
Really don't. We just operate on this blind assumption that a sentence is, well, nothing more than a bunch of vocabulary words strung together in a line until it makes sense.
Yeah.
We treat language like a bucket of Lego bricks,
Yeah.
where you just snap whatever piece you want onto the next piece.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that the words themselves are governed by a strict, almost mathematical framework.
And today, for our deep dive, we are hacking into a very specific piece of that code, which is the architecture of English adjectives.
Yes.
We have a stack of language lessons here that approach this from 3 wildly different altitudes. We're going to look at the microscopic level, how these words are literally forged into existence.
The suffixes.
Right. Then we're going to look at how they chemically bond to other words. And finally, it was going to uncover an unspoken, unwritten law of grammar that you follow perfectly every single day, even though no one ever formally taught it to you.
It's the best part.
It is. Because if we do this right, you, listening right now, are going to have a massive aha moment. Once you see the hidden machinery of how we describe the world, it completely changes how you write an email, how you pitch an idea, and, how you interpret what people are really saying to you. You just can't unsee it.
Which is the entire point of exploring these frameworks. The Code of English isn't just an academic exercise. It actually dictates social dynamics, emotional intelligence, and professional authority.
Oh, absolutely.
When the code compiles correctly, you sound natural, persuasive, and fluent. When it doesn't, even if the vocabulary is technically correct, you create this tiny, imperceptible friction in the mind of the person listening to you.
So let's eliminate that friction. We're going to build our understanding from the ground up, starting at the absolute microscopic word level.
The anatomy.
Yeah, the anatomy. Before we can use adjectives to build sentences, we have to look at how they are made. According to this first set of notes, the very ending of an adjective, the suffix, actually tells a secret story about the word's origin, its tone, and its exact function.
It really does. A suffix is never just decorative. It's
Yeah.
highly functional. It carries a distinct behavioral pattern.
Right.
If you learn to recognize what that specific suffix does, you can decode a word you have literally never seen before in your life without ever opening a dictionary.
I've always thought of suffixes like different Instagram filters that you apply to a base noun.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, you take a plain, ordinary word, and depending on which suffix filter you swipe onto it, you completely alter the word's vibe. You change its emotional weight.
Definitely.
Let's test this with the first pair of suffixes in our research, which is the presence versus the absence of a quality. This is the washful filter versus the lushfless filter.
It's the perfect place to begin because it represents a clean binary system. The suffix washful, spelled F-U-L, is an amplifier.
An amplifier.
Yeah. It literally translates to full of or having a vast quantity of a specific quality. When you attach it to a noun, you are maxing out the volume on that particular trait.
So we're looking at words like a beautiful face. It isn't just an attractive face. I mean, it is a face that is quite literally full of beauty.
Exactly.
A painful injury is full of pain. A careful student is full of care.
You can actually feel the intensity scale up when you add the suffix. A joyful smile isn't merely a happy smile. It's a smile that is bursting at the seams, completely full of joy.
Full of joy. Yeah.
A powerful machine is brimming with power. The notes give us this massive list of vibrant, everyday examples. A cheerful baby.
A helpful teacher.
Right, a wonderful time, a skillful player.
A useful book. Playful children.
Colorful clothes. In every single one of those instances, the layful ending acts as a container that has just been filled to the absolute brim.
It's maximizing the presence of the noun, but then we swipe to the exact opposite filter, which is L-less, L-E-S-S. And this ending means without or lacking.
Yes, it completely strips the quality away.
It creates a void.
Exactly. If L-hole is the absolute presence of something, L-less is the absolute vacuum.
Look at the imagery this creates. A cloudless sky. It doesn't just mean a nice day. It means there is zero presence of clouds.
A sleeveless dress.
Yeah. A joyless song, which is such a heavy, depressing phrase. It means there isn't even a drop of joy to be found.
A useless tool.
A meaningless word. Homeless people. Seedless scrapes. But wait, let me stop and push back on this binary idea for a second.
Sure.
Are these actually perfect mirror opposites? Because if I'm thinking about the way people actually speak, if I'm not a careful driver, does that automatically mean I'm a careless driver?
That is a phenomenal question, and it gets right to the heart of how language is actually psychological, not just mathematical.
Right.
The short answer is no. They are not always perfect symmetrical mirrors.
I knew it. Because I can be driving down the street not being particularly full of care, just sort of cruising along, but I'm not necessarily being reckless or careless.
Exactly. Being careful means you are actively full of care. You're taking deliberate, conscious precautions. But careless doesn't merely mean the neutral absence of those precautions.
It feels harsher.
It does. It almost always carries a heavy judgment. It implies a negligence that leads to a negative consequence. A careless driver is lacking the care that society dictates they ought to possess. It's a failure of responsibility.
That is such a crucial distinction. It's not just a subtraction equation, there's like a social penalty attached to the void.
Absolutely.
And that brings up one of the weirdest and most fascinating examples in this entire stack of research. It highlights the phrase, a fearless spider.
Ah, the fearless spider.
I spent like 10 minutes thinking about this. First of all, who is out there measuring the psychological state of an arachnid?
Right.
But it perfectly illustrates where the mirror breaks. A spider without fear is fearless. It's brave, or at least unbothered. But if we want the opposite, a spider full of fear, we wouldn't call it a fearful spider, would we?
You might, but it would be highly ambiguous.
Ambiguous how?
Well, if you say a fearful spider, most people would think you mean a spider that causes fear in others, a terrifying spider.
Oh.
Or they might think you mean a spider that is feeling fear itself, a frightened spider. The mirror shatters there because fearful has evolved to mean both causing fear and experiencing fear, depending entirely on the context.
So you can't just blindly apply the formula. You have to understand the cultural evolution of the word.
Exactly.
But still, the baseline is incredibly useful. If you're a non-native speaker or even just a reader encountering a dense text and you see a word like weightless for the first time, you don't need to look it up.
No, you don't.
You know reckless equals without, lacking weight. You've bypassed the dictionary because you know the code.
And that kind of pattern recognition is exactly what fluency is built on.
Okay, let's keep swiping filters. The next set of suffixes deals with formal Latin roots versus casual everyday descriptors. This is the lechius ending, OUS, versus the Y ending.
This is a great one.
I feel like this is where the actual bloody history of the English language starts to show its seams.
It absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
What's so compelling here is how the historical origin of these suffixes completely dictates how they feel in our mouths and what tone they set in our communication.
Okay, break that down.
Well, both misuse and Y technically mean the exact same thing. They both mean full of or characterized by, but they possess totally different cultural flavors.
Flavors is the perfect word. The Aegis filter is incredibly formal. It feels heavier, more intellectual, more elevated. The notes point out that these words almost exclusively come from Latin and French roots.
Yes.
They are used to indicate profound character traits or serious situations.
Think about the examples we have here. A courageous soldier, full of courage. A famous writer, a dangerous job. A poisonous snake.
A generous gift.
A mountainous area.
Mm-hmm.
An adventurous explorer. A humorous film. Mischievous children. Marvelous result.
When you say those words out loud, they have a certain gravity to them, don't they?
They really do.
They sound like they belong in a legal contract or a classical novel or a formal business proposal.
They sound expensive. That's what it is.
Yes. It sounds like you went to a Michelin star restaurant and ordered the marvelous, mountainous, generous dessert.
They do sound expensive, and there is a historical reason for that. After the Norman conquest of England in 1066, the ruling class spoke French, which is a Latin-based language.
Okay.
The peasants, the working class, spoke Old English, which is a Germanic language. So the words associated with high society, law, art, and abstract thought, the expensive concepts took on these Latin tussius endings.
Wow. So when I use an ussus word, I am literally channeling 11th century aristocracy.
Precisely. You're putting on the crown,
Yeah.
but then you have the I
But
suffix.
guy suffix, this is the peasant filter.
Hit it.
This is the casual, everyday roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty filter.
Exactly. The Y suffix also means characterized by, but it is almost entirely used for immediate physical, visceral descriptions of everyday survival and environment.
The list is so tactile. A messy room, a noisy car, dirty hands, sleepy dog.
A cloudy sky, thirsty children, a muddy path.
A sunny day, stormy weather,
Oh.
a lazy worker, juicy fruit. An easy test. You can literally smell and touch these words.
And notice the contrast. You don't have a dirtiest room. You have a dirty room. The addiest words live in the abstract mind. The addier words live in the mud.
I am obsessed with this division. It's not just a grammar rule, it's a tool for emotional manipulation.
How so?
Well, if I'm writing an email to a client and I want to soften a problem, I might say the data is a bit messy. That sounds like a little spill on the kitchen counter. It's a we word.
Right, very casual.
But if I want to sound authoritative and severe, I'll say, this is a highly dangerous situation. That adjus word pulls rank.
But it's exactly how native speakers wield these suffixes. Even if they don't consciously realize they are doing it, you modulate your authority based on the suffix.
All right, there are a few other relational suffixes we need to touch on before we hit what I think is the biggest trap in the English language. We have al, al.
The al suffix simply means belonging to or relating to. So a national flag belongs to a nation. Personal possessions relate to a person.
We have musical instruments.
A traditional costume.
Mm-hmm.
Electrical goods. Magical powers. A coastal town. Medical equipment. It's a very utilitarian bonding agent.
It just glues a noun to a category. Then we have icy, IC, which is similar, basic, energetic, fantastic. We have able, ABLE, which is entirely about capability.
Right.
Are you capable of being liked? You are likable. Are you capable of being seen? You are visible. Are you capable of making sense? You are sensible.
Then we also have icish, which is fascinating from a psychological standpoint.
Oh, Aish is great.
The formal definition is that it means like something. But in practice, it almost always carries a negative, diminutive, or immature connotation.
Oh, totally. Like childish. You rarely use that as a compliment. If someone says, you're being childish, they don't mean you have the wonderful wonder and innocence of a child.
No, they mean you are an adult throwing a temper tantrum.
Exactly. Or selfish, focusing entirely on the self to the detriment of others. Foolish is acting like a fool. The icish suffix is fundamentally condescending.
It's a distancing mechanism. You're saying someone is like a thing, but a cheap, unrefined version of it.
Okay, we've arrived at the trap. We've talked about belful, ales, but there is one suffix that completely shorts out the brains of anyone trying to learn the mechanics of English. The le trap. ly.
This is a vital area of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
It causes friction constantly.
Yeah, because of adverbs, right?
Yes. The absolute golden rule of thumb that most people are taught in primary school and that ESL learners are drilled on is that if a word ends in ly, it is an adverb.
Right.
It describes a verb. It tells you how an action was performed.
Right. If I see an ly, my brain instantly categorizes it as an adverb. He ran quickly, she spoke softly, they fought viciously. It modifies the verb.
But the architecture of English is full of legacy code quirks and exceptions that have survived for centuries. There is an entire rogue class of words ending in ly that are not adverbs.
The imposters.
Exactly. They are adjectives, and they're specifically used to describe personality, appearance, or intrinsic traits of a noun.
The notes give us friendly, lovely, lively, and elderly. Now, if I try to use friendly as an adverb, the system completely crashes. I can't say, she spoke friendly. That sounds agonizing.
It really does.
Or what? She spoke friendly.
Friendly is actually in the dictionary, but if you say it out loud in a business meeting, everyone will look at you as if you've lost your mind.
It's so clunky.
It is impossibly clunky. To understand the trap, you have to look at the contrast. Compare these two sentences. She is a friendly person versus she spoke politely.
Okay, let's parse the code. In she is a friendly person, the word friendly is modifying the noun person.
Correct.
It is a permanent trait attached to her identity. It's an adjective, despite the ly camouflage.
Exactly. But in the second sentence, she spoke politely, the word politely is modifying the verb spoke.
Oh, I see.
It is describing the transient manner in which the action occurred. She might be a profoundly rude person who just happened to speak politely in that one specific instance. That is an adverb.
Adjectives in disguise. So if I want to describe the action of being friendly, I have to use a workaround. I can't say he waved friendly. I have to build a whole new phrase, he waved in a friendly manner, or he waved in a friendly way.
Exactly. You have to build a little grammatical bridge to accommodate the disguised adjective. Words like friendly, lovely, silly, lonely, ugly, deadly. You just have to manually recognize them as adjectives and treat them accordingly.
Okay, to wrap up our microscopic look at the anatomy of an adjective, we have to talk about the absolute granddaddy of all conversational disasters. The present participle versus the past participle.
Oh, this is the big one.
The ing ending versus the ed ending.
If you are going to master only one thing from this entire discussion, make it this. This is perhaps the most common source of error for non-native speakers, and frankly, I hear native speakers trip over the underlying logic all the time when they get flustered.
I see this happen at least once a month. Someone will be in a meeting, they'll sigh, and they will say, I am very boring today.
Oh, no.
And what they actually mean is, I am very bored today.
Yeah.
It's a hilarious mistake because you are accidentally insulting yourself in front of your colleagues.
Right.
But mechanically, looking at the code, why does that specific glitch happen so often?
It happens because both of these forms are derived from verbs to bore, to interest, to excite. But when they are forged into adjectives, they function as completely different poles of a magnet.
Different poles.
Yeah. The research lays out a brilliant airtight rule here. Adjectives ending in ing describe what something is doing or how it affects the environment around it. It is the cause.
The cause, the source of the energy. Okay.
Conversely, adjectives ending in end describe what has been done to something or the internal result of an external action. It is the effect.
Cause and effect, transmitter and receiver.
I love that analogy.
Let's run through the examples to cement this. The ing words are acting like a radio tower broadcasting a signal. An interesting book, a caring nurse.
A boring story.
An exciting ride. A smiling face, a flashing light, a disappointing result, a gleaming car. In every single one of those examples, the noun is actively projecting that specific quality outward into the world. The book is projecting interest. The ride is projecting excitement.
Precisely. The book is the active cause of the interest. The light is the active cause of the flash. Now look at the ed words, the effect. A closed door.
Yeah.
An escaped prisoner. A wasted opportunity.
Okay.
These describe the permanent or temporary result of an action that has already happened to the noun. The door received the action of being closed. It didn't close anything else, it was closed.
So let's go back to my disastrous meeting example.
Right.
If I sit down in a chair and announce I am boring, I am using the ing suffix. I am announcing that I am the cause of boredom.
Exactly.
I am a radio tower broadcasting absolute tedium into the conference room.
Which means everyone around you is legally permitted to fall asleep because you have explicitly warned them that you are a boring entity.
Exactly. But if I say I am bored, I am using the aid suffix.
Yeah.
I am the receiver. I am the affect. Something else in the room. A boring spreadsheet, a boring presentation has projected boredom onto me, and my resulting internal state is that I am bored.
This requires a constant subconscious self-audit. Am I the source of this feeling or am I receiving this feeling?
Right.
If the movie is exciting the source, then the audience is excited the receiver. If the Q3 financial result is disappointing, then the executive team is disappointed.
It's so clean when you view it as a transmitter and a receiver. The in broadcasts, the A absorbs. The research also points out physical states like a closed door and an escaped prisoner. The door didn't close itself. It is in a state of having been acted upon. The opportunity is in a state of having been wasted.
Internalizing this transmitter-receiver dynamic instantly elevates your communication. It removes that tiny moment of cognitive dissonance for the listener who hears, I am boring, and has to mentally translate it to, I am bored to make sense of the context.
All right, so we've expertly forged our adjectives in the kiln. We know how to use amplifiers like umful and voids like emphless. We know the historical weight of the Latin effless versus the visceral Germanic a.
We survived the F-ly track.
We survived the disguised adverbs, yes. And we've mastered the transmitter-receiver physics of effling and effed. But we have a major problem.
Okay.
We can't just leave these beautifully constructed adjectives floating around in a vacuum. If I just walk up to you and say, excited or dangerous, it doesn't mean anything.
They need to attach to something. They need chemical bonds.
Exactly. Which brings us to the next phase of our deep dive, the chemistry of connection. Specifically, how adjectives pair with prepositions. Because adjectives rarely act alone. Especially when they are describing complex human feelings, judgments, or actions, they require a very specific preposition to link them to their target.
And this is where the code becomes incredibly rigid. Choosing the wrong preposition is a dead giveaway that your internal software isn't compiling correctly. It's the hallmark of a non-native speaker or someone who is deeply flustered.
I think of prepositions as the specific charging cables for different adjectives.
Oh, that works perfectly.
You know how infuriating it is when you have a device that requires a USB-C cable, but you're rummaging through your drawer and you only have an old micro USB? You can shove it into the port as hard as you want, but it's not going to connect. It won't charge the device.
Adjectives are exactly the same.
You cannot plug the adjective interested into the preposition about. It just doesn't fit the port. You can't say, I am interested about history. The adjective interested exclusively requires the in cable, interested in history.
That is a phenomenal analogy. The English language has developed these highly specific proprietary pairings over hundreds of years. And while some of it feels like rate memorization, there is actually a deep underlying spatial logic to it.
A spatial logic?
Yes. Let's look at the first category for the research judging human behavior. This is where we are forced to choose between the prepositions of and to.
Okay, the rule laid out here is that we use of when we are describing someone's general behavior or character, but we shift to when we are talking about how they directly treat another human being.
Let's break down the spatial logic of the examples. The notes say, "It was nice of you to help me," and "It was stupid of her to go out without a coat." Notice the adjectives, nice, stupid, kind, generous. When paired with of, we are making a judgment about the action itself in isolation.
Nice of you.
Yes.
Stupid of her. We are shining a spotlight directly on the person's character based on that one isolated decision.
Right. It implies origin. The stupidity originated of her. The niceness was born of you. But contrast that with the preposition to.
Okay.
The examples are, they were very kind to me. Why were you so unfriendly to Tessa? She's always polite to her. Here, the adjectives kind, unfriendly, polite aren't just floating character judgments. They are directional arrows.
Let me stop and play devil's advocate here. Why does English force us to choose between the action and the recipient like this? Why can't I just say he was kind to me or he was kind at me? Why do we mean these two different ports?
Because it shifts the psychological focus of the sentence entirely. If you say, it was stupid of her, the grammatical and psychological spotlight is entirely on the actor's internal decision-making process.
But the recipient doesn't even matter.
The recipient doesn't even need to exist. Going out without a coat only affects her. It is an isolated event. But if you say, she was kind to me, the spotlight illuminates the bridge between two people. The preposition to implies a physical destination. The kindness traveled from her across the bridge to me. Of is an origin point. To is a bridge.
Oh, wow. Of is origin, to is a bridge. That fundamentally changes how I view those sentences. It's not arbitrary at all, it's geometry. If I am evaluating your soul, I use of. If I am evaluating how your soul impacts my soul, I used to.
Precisely. Let's apply that same spatial geometry to the next category, directing our feelings. Here, the text contrasts the preposition about with the preposition with or for.
Okay, the rule is the broad cause of a feeling gets about. But a feeling aimed like a laser at a specific person gets with, and sometimes we use for to explain the specific reason.
Let's look at the about examples. I'm excited about going on holiday. Carol is upset about not being invited. He's angry about something. In these cases, about acts as a large, blurry circle drawn around a situation.
You're excited, and the general geographic area of that excitement encompasses the entire concept of the holiday. The flights, the hotel, the beach. It's a broad situational blanket.
Yes, the emotion is reacting to an ambient event or circumstance. But when the emotion is laser focused on a human being, the spatial logic demands we switch to with.
The examples are you annoyed with me for being late? She's angry with her brother for lying. I am pleased with the outcome, disappointed with the results.
Notice how with puts you in direct, face-to-face, almost combat-level contact with the target of your emotion. You aren't just angry in a general ambient sense, you are angry with her brother.
It's confrontational.
It is. You are holding that anger together in a shared claustrophobic space. You are locked in a room with the anger and the brother, and then you use for to explain the specific transactional action that caused the lock-in angry with her brother for lying.
This is a masterclass for workplace conflict resolution. If I go to HR and say, I am angry about the new schedule, that's a structural complaint. The circle is broad.
Very broad.
But if I say, I am angry with Jim for changing the schedule, I have just launched a targeted missile. I have locked myself in a room with Jim.
Exactly. It's a highly calibrated system for assigning either ambient blame or targeted blame.
And English is notoriously good at assigning blame. Which brings us to a slightly more chaotic pairing, the element of surprise. These are adjectives describing shock, awe, or strong reactions. The text says we use at or by.
Yes, adjectives like shocked, amazed, surprised, astonished. The notes give, I was shocked by the news. We were amazed at her performance.
Now, I want to highlight a sentence in this research that is incredibly rare in the study of English grammar. The text explicitly says you can often choose between by and at. Here both are acceptable. I read that and almost wept.
It's a miracle.
It is a massive relief. I can say shocked by the news or shocked at the news, and the English language police will not arrest me.
It is a very rare moment of mercy in the code. Both at and by effectively convey the physics of an external force hitting you. You are looking at the performance in amazement as if it's a spectacle, or you are struck by the news as if it's a physical object. The nuance between the two is so microscopically slight that even the most pedantic native speakers use them interchangeably.
The notes do lump in a few other reaction adjectives here that do have strict, unforgiving pairings. Impressed with your English. Bored with my job. Fed up with the noise. You cannot be set up by the noise or fed up at the noise. You must use with.
Again, think of the spatial logic. Fed up with. It's that claustrophobic lock-in. You are stuck in a room with the noise, and the noise has filled the room until you are saturated. You have had enough.
Okay, now we have to talk about the word sorry, because the research dedicates an entire distinct subsection to the many, many shades of sorry, and how the word completely mutates in meaning based entirely on the tiny preposition attached to it.
I cannot stress this enough. Mastering these microscopic variations of sorry is absolutely vital to navigating social apologies properly in any English-speaking culture. A social or professional apology can completely, catastrophically fail if you plug in the wrong preposition cable.
Let's break it down because this is high-stakes social survival. The text gives us 4 distinct architectural structures for an apology. First, sorry about. You use this for a situation. I'm sorry about the noise last night.
Notice the physics of sorry about. It distances you slightly from the action. You are apologizing for the general ambient situation, the noise, but you aren't necessarily falling on your sword and confessing, I maliciously created the noise with my own 2 hands. It's a polite, socially lubricating acknowledgement of an unfortunate circumstance.
Right. It's like saying, sorry about the rain, I didn't seed the clouds, I didn't cause the rain, but I am expressing a general ambient regret that it is currently raining on our picnic. It's sympathetic, but it deflects direct liability.
Exactly. Now compare that deflecting shield to the second structure, sorry for. The rule is that we use this for an action you directly committed. I'm sorry for shouting at you.
Oh, that is much heavier. Sorry for serve. Takes absolute unvarnished ownership. I did the shouting. The shouting belongs to me. I own it.
It implies a direct transactional exchange of guilt and penance. I am handing you this apology for this specific transgression I committed. It is an exchange rate. You can also, as the notes point out, drop the preposition entirely if you immediately follow it with a subject and verb. I'm sorry I shouted at you.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, I'm late. It's fast. It's direct. It rips the Band-Aid off. But then there is the fourth one, which is arguably the most dangerous because it isn't actually an apology at all. It's an expression of sympathy. I feel sorry for George. He has a lot of problems.
This is a critical trap. If you say, I am sorry to George, you are issuing an apology directly to him. But if you say, I feel sorry for George, you are expressing pity, empathy, or condescension from a distance.
Right.
You have done absolutely nothing wrong to George. You are just observing his misery.
If you mix those up in a real-world scenario, the results are wildly confusing, bordering on psychotic. Imagine I'm at a cafe with my friend George. I accidentally knock my entire cup of hot coffee into his lap. He's screaming, he's burning.
Horrible.
If I look at him and say, I feel sorry for George, he is going to look at me like I am a serial killer. I am observing his pain like a scientist. I need to say, I am sorry, George, or I am sorry for spilling coffee on you.
It perfectly highlights how a single 2-letter preposition completely reroutes the emotional and moral intent of a sentence. It changes you from a remorseful friend into a detached sociopath.
It's the architecture. The code dictates reality. Okay, the final part of our preposition chemistry segment covers the idiomatic matchups. These are the pairings that don't always have a neat geometric logic. They are just fixed idioms that have been hardened into the language over centuries.
And this list is an absolute goldmine for anyone trying to sound fluent because these are high-frequency combinations used every single day. Let's run through them and see if we can extract any underlying psychological patterns.
The notes group a bunch of them by emotional and psychological states: afraid of spiders, jealous of his brother, proud of her work, ashamed of their mistake, suspicious of her behavior. Why is it always of?
Look at what those adjectives have in common. Fear, jealousy, pride, shame, suspicion. They are entirely internal, deeply rooted psychological states. They use of because it suggests composition. It's almost as if the internal feeling is physically manufactured out of that target. My fear is made of spiders. My pride is built out of her work.
Oh, I love that. The emotion is composed of the noun. Then there are the cognitive states: aware of the problem, capable of doing it, full of ideas, tired of waiting, sure of that, or sure about that. Again, lots of here. The capability is made of the action.
Then the research shifts to skill-based adjectives. And this is a very strict zero-tolerance rule in English. We say good at cooking, bad at math, brilliant at languages.
This one trips up so many people. I hear people say good in math all the time, especially if they are translating directly from their native language. Why is it good at math? I am physically sitting in a math class.
Because English treats skills like weaponry. At implies a specific, localized point of focus, like a target.
Oh, like you are throwing a dart at a dartboard.
Exactly. You are aiming your brilliance at languages. You are aiming your ineptitude at math. It's a targeted strike. You aren't swimming in the math. You are executing a skill at it.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Aim the dart. And finally, we have relational or state-based adjectives. And here's one I want to highlight heavily because it is a massive pet peeve of mine. The text says, she is married to an American. I hear people say married with all the time. Why is it married to?
In many Romance and Germanic languages, the equivalent preposition translates directly to with. You are joined with someone. But in English, married to implies a directional permanent commitment. You have bound yourself to that person, much like you were attached to or devoted to or addicted to something. It is a tether.
It's the bridge again. Just like kind to me, the marriage is a bridge built to the other person. And logically, if you say, I am married with children, that means something completely different. That means you possess the state of marriage, and you also concurrently possess children. You did not marry your children.
Let's hope not. Other relational pairings from the list that follow similar tethering logic, different from what I expected. Interested in science, keen on football, dependent on parents.
Crowded with people, famous for its art, responsible for the noise.
Notice how famous for and responsible for both use for to indicate the root cause. The art is the reason for the fame. The noise is the reason for the responsibility.
It really is an incredibly tight system. Once you see the cables and the ports, you stop guessing. You stop trying to shove the USB-C into the micro USB slot, and you start plugging things in smoothly where they naturally belong.
And the beautiful thing about the human brain is that the more you read and listen to natural English, the more these specific combinations bypass your conscious thought. They will just start to sound right to your ear, and the wrong ones will sound like a jarring musical mistake.
Which is the absolute perfect transition to the final, most mind-bending part of our deep dive. We have built our adjectives from scratch, using the right suffixes. We have chemically bonded them to the right prepositions to direct their energy. Now, what happens when we want to stack a whole bunch of them together? What happens when there's a massive traffic jam of descriptions trying to squeeze into a single sentence? We hit what might be the most rigid, unspoken rule in the entire English language.
We are moving out of the chemistry of phrases, and we are entering the macrophysics of sentence structure.
Here is where it gets really, really interesting. The final piece of our research dives into adjective position and sequencing. First, it establishes the two main neighborhoods where adjectives are legally allowed to live.
Right, we have to define the basic geography of the sentence. Adjectives primarily appear in two places directly before a noun, acting as a modifier, or after a linking verb, acting as a destination.
The notes give some very straightforward examples of adjectives acting as advanced scouts before nouns. A 2-hour trip, a $90 jacket, large trees, small envelopes, a round cake, a 2-year-old child, $40 shoes. In all these cases, the adjective walks just ahead of the noun, announcing to the listener exactly what kind of noun is about to arrive.
But adjectives can also act as the grand finale of a sentence, coming after what we call linking verbs. The research specifically lists these verbs: be, feel, look, seem, smell, sound, taste, grow, become.
So instead of saying the happy people, you say they are happy. The boy's asleep. The wind became stronger. Her reasoning seems logical. The carrots tasted sweet. The soup smelled good. The sky looked gray and overcast.
It's important to understand what linking verbs do. They don't describe a physical action like running, jumping, or punching. They describe a state of being. They act exactly like an equal sign in a mathematical equation. Carrots equals sweet. Soup equals good. Reasoning equals logical.
Okay, that's the basic layout, the map of the territory. Before we get to the massive, crazy sequencing rule, the text drops a quick, almost throwaway note on proper adjectives that I think is super profound. It says that adjectives formed from proper nouns always get a capital letter.
Yes, the French town, capitalized because it is derived from the proper noun France. American friends, capitalized from America. A Victorian house, capitalized from Queen Victoria.
I love this rule because it shows how vast human history and geography are baked directly into the DNA of our everyday mundane physical descriptions. We can't even describe the architectural style of a modern house in the suburbs without literally invoking the capitalized name of a 19th century British monarch. It ties our language directly to the physical timeline of the world.
It absolutely does. It's a reminder that language isn't just an abstract system invented in a lab. It's a historical artifact that carries the ghosts of empires and nations in its spelling.
Okay. Take a deep breath. Prepare yourself. We have arrived at the summit, the ultimate unwritten law of English, the royal order of adjectives.
This is, without exaggeration, one of the most remarkable phenomena in all of cognitive linguistics. Because almost no native English speaker is ever formally taught this rule in a classroom, yet every single native speaker on the planet follows it flawlessly, every single day.
The research outlines what happens when you use more than one adjective before a noun. You have a giant pile of descriptors, and you want to use them all. You can't just throw them in whatever order you feel like. It's not a buffet. They must follow a highly specific, rigid, 9-step sequence. Let me read the full sequence straight from the code.
Go for it.
Number 1, determiners, or numbers. These are words like all, my, some, a, to. Number 2, opinion adjectives. Words like beautiful, delicious, nice, ugly. Number 3, size, big, small, tall. Number 4, shape, round, square, flat. Number 5, age, old, young, new, antique. Number 6, color, blue, red, black. Number 7, material, wooden, metal, leather, silk. Number 8, origin, American, Japanese, Victorian, lunar. Number 9, purpose, hiking boots, sleeping bag, steering wheel. And then finally, at the very end of that gauntlet, the actual noun.
It is breathtaking in its complexity. The notes also provide a slightly simplified 7-step version to memorize if the 9-step is too overwhelming. Opinion, size, age, color, material, origin, noun.
Let's test this algorithm with the examples provided in the research. A big, round, wooden table. Let's check the code. Big is size, round is shape, wooden is material, size, shape, material. It compiles perfectly.
Look at the next one. A beautiful long silk dress. Beautiful is opinion, long is size. Silk is material, opinion, size, material. It follows the exact descending hierarchy.
A small blue diamond. Size, color. It works. The text even specifically warns us with a negative example. Instead of saying a leather black jacket, you should say a black leather jacket, because color always comes before material.
Now, I want to hear you push back here. What actually happens if you intentionally break this law?
Right. I was just thinking that. What if I walk into a high-end furniture store, I walk up to the salesperson, and I say, "Excuse me, I would like to buy a round wooden big table." Grammatically, I have provided all the correct vocabulary. The words are valid English words. The prepositions are fine. What actually happens in that interaction?
What happens is that the native-speaking salesperson will experience a tiny, almost imperceptible glitch in their brain. It sounds incredibly jarring. It feels jagged, like a record skipping a beat.
A glitch.
Yeah, they might even subconsciously ask you to repeat yourself because their auditory processing center couldn't digest the adjectives in that sequence. It just sounds fundamentally, undeniably wrong.
It's like putting your shoes on before your socks. You have all the correct items of clothing. You possess both shoes and socks. But the sequence in which you applied them violates the physical laws of the universe.
That is exactly what it feels like. It's a violation of linguistic physics. And this raises the most important question of this entire deep dive. Why does this hierarchy exist? Why did the English language, over hundreds of years of chaotic evolution, settle on this exact hyperspecific order.
Yeah, why is my subjective opinion always relegated to the very front of the line, furthest away from the noun, while origin or material gets to stand right next to the noun?
Linguists and cognitive psychologists believe it reveals a profound cognitive hierarchy in how the human brain processes reality and information about physical objects. Look at the order again, starting from the noun and working backwards.
Okay, looking at the noun.
The adjectives closest to the noun, purpose, origin, material, are the most permanent, intrinsic, unchangeable, objective physical properties of the object. A wooden table is fundamentally made of wood. That is an immutable atomic fact. It cannot be debated.
Okay, I'm following.
As you move further and further away from the noun, the adjectives become progressively more subjective, more malleable, and more open to human interpretation. Color can be painted over. A brown table can become a white table. Age is entirely relative. What is old to you might be new to an antiquities dealer.
Oh, right.
Size is relative. A big table in a tiny apartment is a small table in a mansion. And the furthest away from the noun, out on the absolute perimeter of the sentence, is opinion. Beautiful. Ugly. That exists entirely in the fragile mind of the speaker. It has absolutely nothing to do with the physical atoms of the object itself.
Oh my God, that is incredible. So the English language physically structures its sentences to protect the noun. It keeps flimsy, subjective human opinions at arm's length, while cold, hard, immutable physical facts are allowed to huddle right up next to the noun's identity.
Yes, the more inherent and unchangeable a quality is to the noun's very existence, the closer it is permitted to stand to the noun. Think about a sleeping bag. It is fundamentally defined by its purpose, sleeping. If it doesn't do that, it's just a tube of fabric.
So fabric tube, yeah.
Right. So it's made of nylon material. It's green color. It's new age. It's small size. And I personally think it's ugly opinion. An ugly, small, new, green nylon sleeping bag.
An ugly, small, new green nylon sleeping bag that rolls off the tongue perfectly. Now, if I try to mix that up and scramble the hierarchy, a nylon green, new, small, ugly sleeping bag, it sounds like I am having a neurological event. It literally hurts my brain to say it out loud. It feels like I'm chewing on tinfoil.
And what is truly mind-bending, what should keep you up at night, is that native speakers absorb this highly complex 9-step sorting algorithm through pure rhythm and ambient pattern recognition by the time they are 3 or 4 years old. No toddler is sitting in their crib with a flashcard memorizing opinion, size, age, color. They just intuitively know what sounds right because their brain has cracked the code of permanence versus subjectivity.
It just proves what we said at the very beginning of this deep dive. Language isn't a random bucket of Lego bricks. It's a staggering architecture. It's a massive, invisible software code that is running in the background of our minds, silently structuring our perception of reality, sorting permanence from subjectivity, and most of us don't even know the program is running.
It is the ultimate invisible framework. Governs every thought you express.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We have taken a massive journey today. We started at the absolute microscopic origins of words. We looked at how a simple swipe of a suffix, like the amplifier ontful, the void of unculus, or the expensive Norman history of ontus, can fundamentally alter the emotional weight and power of a simple noun.
We explored the highly specific chemical bonds, the prepositions that link those adjectives to our actions and our conflicts. We learned the directional geometry of to as a bridge versus of as an origin point. And we saw how a single word like about or for can mean the difference between a successful apology and a social catastrophe.
And we finally uncovered the strict, unwritten cognitive hierarchy that dictates exactly how we arrange our thoughts when we describe the physical universe around us. The royal order of adjectives.
For anyone listening, whether you are drafting a crucial email to your board of directors, negotiating a raise, or just trying to sound more articulate in your everyday life, these are the cheat codes. You no longer have to rely purely on guessing or brute force memorization. You can look at an ing ending and know it's a transmitter. You can look at an a to know it's a receiver. You can logically deduce why you are aiming your skills at something rather than swimming in it.
You can recognize these patterns everywhere. You're now looking at the matrix, and instead of seeing a waterfall of green gibberish, you see the woman in the red dress. You see the physics engine. You see the code compiling perfectly.
And once you can see the code, you can wield it. You can build sentences that aren't just grammatically passable, but rhythmically, structurally, and psychologically powerful. You eliminate the friction.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over today as you go about your life, reading emails, listening to your colleagues, talking to your friends. We just discovered that native English speakers naturally and flawlessly execute a highly complex 9-step cognitive algorithm, the opinion size age color material rule, without ever knowing the rule actually exists.
It's wild to think about.
It makes you wonder, if we are blindly executing a 9-step mathematical equation just to describe a wooden table, what other invisible complex frameworks are secretly governing the exact way we think, the way we judge each other, and the way we construct our reality every single day, completely beneath our conscious awareness?
The code goes infinitely deep.
It really does. Keep looking for the patterns, everyone.